Welcome back to NO To Lashon Hara, day 52. This entire series being done as a refuah shlema for Chana bat Semefega. The Chafetz Chaim continues now and examines Lashon Hara from the other side of this spectrum. Normally, there's someone who's speaking Lashon Hara and someone who's listening. We've been talking up until now with the sin of the person who's speaking Lashon Hara. But now we start to look at the listener as well. There's a halacha that tells us that a person is forbidden from believing Lashon Hara. A person who accepts Lashon Hara as a fact and believes it has actually broken a Torah commandment. Now the Chafetz Chaim explains actually that not only is accepting or listening to the Torah, to the Lashon Hara, a sin, but actually the punishment is greater for accepting Lashon Hara than for speaking Lashon Hara, which is wild, but makes us realize how important it is not to listen to Lashon Hara. Not only that, let's say you're listening to Lashon Hara and you do not intend to accept the information. You have no intention of listening to it. You're just sitting there and listening without the intention of accepting it. Still, it's asur, but there's a big difference between accepting Lashon Hara and listening with the intention of not actually believing what you're going to hear. Now, what is the difference between those two things? So we come to this from the perspective of to'elet, which we've already explained is when someone listens to Lashon Hara for a constructive purpose. There are two times which are very, very commonly relatable, but obviously there's many more examples of these two things. But the Chafetz Chaim examines these two specific areas where a person actually needs to listen to information about somebody for a constructive reason. So as an example, let's say it's an area of business or it's an area of shidduchim, and you need to go and check out this person and find out whether or not something is problematic. And what if you're listening to someone who's telling you negative information about a person you are thinking about marrying or having your child marry, about a business partner you're about to take into the business, about someone who's about to sell you something? All of a sudden you start hearing this information which is telling you that you really better think twice about getting involved with such a person. Now, when the person is listening in this scenario, his intention is not to listen to the information, not to share the information. He really is just thinking to himself, I need to protect myself. Now, when a person thinks that way, that is an example of when a person might be able actually to listen to that Lashon Hara. But he needs to decide before he even listens that while I'm going to try and use this information to protect myself, I'm not going to accept that what this person is saying is true without independently verifying it. So imagine a speaker comes to you and says, look, I know you're dating this person. There's something you ought to know. Or seems like you guys are about to do this business deal. Let me tell you something about the person you're about to get connected to. At that moment, the listener is listening to Lashon Hara for the sake of protecting themselves. Now, if the speaker makes it absolutely clear and says, I have no intention of speaking Lashon Hara about this person, it's not what I want to do, that's not the type of person I am, I just want you to know, leto'elet, what you're getting yourself into. So when the person is making it clear that that is his intention, so you know that what comes out of his mouth is going to be specifically tailored to that end, or an example where the speaker is already speaking that information to somebody else. So I'm not causing him to speak by listening to him. So there's no concept of me creating a sin by my listening, by giving this person a sounding board or a platform to be able to speak his Lashon Hara to. So in either scenario, either way, he's already speaking to somebody else, so you're not causing him to sin. Or in a scenario where the person tells you explicitly that he's giving you this information to protect yourself, then a person is allowed to listen to that Lashon Hara. However, even when he's listening to that Lashon Hara, and his intention is to not fall into the trap or not get into a bad situation himself, still, he has to accept on himself and decide before he listens to it that it's not really that he's accepting or believing the information as fact, he's just taking levels of precaution to protect himself. A second element that is also true with regards to this is if the person is listening with the intent not of protecting himself, but perhaps of protecting or bettering the position of the person who's being spoken about. So as an example, let's say I hear bad information about someone, and I know that I can go and pass that information on to someone else who might be able to help them. Or if I feel I could help them. In that situation, Lashon Hara is actually not for the sake of hurting that person, and therefore it's not negative speech, at least with regards to me, the listener. It's actually positive because the net result is going to be that the person is better off because I heard it. So how do I act on something and protect myself from something if I don't believe it? We just said that you're not allowed to believe it, but the point of being able to listen to it is in order to protect yourself. How could those two things be true? If you don't believe it, what are you protecting yourself from? And the answer is that, as an example, when a person steps up to do business with someone else, they don't know for sure that the person is a bad person. They also don't know for sure whether or not the person's a good person. So when someone comes and says, this person's a crook, I don't believe them. I just now have a doubt. And because I have a doubt, I'm protecting myself, and I don't do business when I have a doubt. But I don't believe that there is truth specifically as in what's being said. In fact, that's also how it can actually be presented back to the person himself. You can go back to them and say, listen, this is what I heard, and obviously I don't believe it, but I just want to know, why are they saying these things about you? Perhaps you better figure out why this kind of language is circulating about your behavior. In that way, this is also a positive listening experience.